Hey guys, this is Nick from Surf Fishing in SoCal. Today I want to talk about how to use Surfline or surfline.com for surf fishing. And it's just a forecasting tool designed for surfers really, but um, I'm going to show you how I use it for surf fishing and just the benefits that I get from having the forecasting tool at my fingertips. So I have the premium version. Um, I could grab the rates, but I'll put it in the description. I don't know it off the top of my head. Um, but yeah, there are a couple free versions out there. There's Surfline free version and then Magic Seaweed free version. I think the Magic Seaweed option, if you're not going to pay, is better than Surfline free. Um, it gives you, Magic Seaweed does, it gives you a few more days or a couple more days of forecast, so that's a benefit there. And I still use Magic Seaweed. I don't have the paid version there, but I think there's some benefits to it. It's very easy to read, very well laid out. But today we're going to go into Surfline and how to use it. So head on over to surfline.com, or if you have the app, great. It's all going to be similar. It'll look a little different on your mobile device, but it's a little more just broad and go into detail here a lot too. So on this screen, I obviously have my favorited beaches. And don't get too excited. This is my favorite beaches, which are every single beach in San Diego. There's no secret spots here. You'll see I literally have everything in San Diego. And most of it is from south to north. There's a couple outliers in there that I should get organizing on, but I like everything laid out south to north so I can quickly cruise through here and see where the conditions are looking best. So to add one, I should take a step back. In order to add to your favorites and starting out, you can head over to cams and reports. You can check out recently viewed here. I've actually clicked a lot of them lately. But you can head over here. So it's San Diego, and obviously you can start by going to North America. You'll narrow it down to United States. Then you'll go to California or wherever you are. I'm in San Diego, so I'll go there. And you can see this indicates there's a cam, this indicates there's multiple cams, and doesn't show which ones I have favorited here. On the mobile version, when you come into the page, it does, but anyways, I have all my favorites here. That's how it will show up. It'll show up a little different on your mobile screen, but this in general shows you the rundown of what conditions are right now. So 3 to 4 feet at Imperial Beach, 2 to 3 feet, and this is the surf height at Coronado Beach. The words fair here and the colors is more important to surfers. Again, this was designed for surfers, but it has to do with how smooth the waves are, how rideable the waves are, and how big the waves are. So I think it takes all those factors in and gives it a score. But 3 to 4 feet is okay for us. 2 to 3 is our standard quality conditions. Okay, if it's 2 to 3 feet, we're good. Anything lower than that is great. 0 to 1 is like fish the heck out of it because that's very, very cooperative conditions. 1 to 2, golden still. 2 to 3 is still good. Anything higher than that, 3 to 4 is like, all right, it's not great, but it's fishable for sure. 4 to 5 and 5 to 6. Once you hit 5 to 6, it's probably no go. I probably wouldn't spend too much time on that. If I had a client try to schedule, I'd let them know, like, hey, we might want to reschedule. But that's just my take on surf height, and that's what you're going to get from this main screen. So say we pick our beach, and I'm going to head over to Torrey Pines because I saw something there I liked earlier today. So if we head over to Torrey Pines State Beach, click into that, it'll open us up to the cans. And right now I'm filming this at 8 p.m. on November 23rd, so unfortunately the sunset's really early now. So it's dark. Now we do have the option to rewind. So if we head over here, we got all this right here, and we can head over to 4. Let's head earlier. This isn't exactly the cam that I wanted. Give me a second. Let's go back to here. It's tough because it's dark, but Torrey Pines State Beach. It's this. This is the one. So if we had to rewind for Torrey Pines State Beach, this is what it'll look like. If you pull it up on a daily basis, you'll show up to something like this, and you'll see, okay, great conditions. Surf. It's not like tiny surf, but it's small surf, very manageable, and I would fish that any day of the week. Now, the other cool thing you see here is you've got this is a huge trough that is going to hold fish when the water fills. And it's also going to turn into a rip as it becomes more east-west facing here. So that's going to be a huge rip right here. Tear out all the bait there. Fish are going to be drawn in, and they're going to come right in here. Okay, that's something that you don't even have to show up to the beach, and you know it's there. So you can figure out where this is. This is somewhere along the parking lot, I would imagine, a little bit north, closer to the jetty. Or sorry, not jetty, closer to the inlet. But that's something really cool to see. You can also see, hey, there's not a ton of seaweed here. I'm not going to waste my time by showing up and getting kelped out. So just a really cool feature that helps a lot if you're kind of like spur of the moment, where should I go? Look at the cams and see what looks best. So there's that. That's the rewind stuff. Now if I head back to the live cam, you got all these different cam choices for this beach specifically, and not all the beaches have 4 options. This is a pretty popular beach, so it has that, but a lot of the other ones have 1. Some won't have a cam at all. You can see the nearby spots down here. So Blacks is right here. Blacks is an interesting one. They're not going to have the cam down on the beach because you might see a bunch of naked people. La Jolla Shores, it'll show you this view. And that's a preview, basically. That's exactly the view that it'll give you. But yeah, you can see Blacks is 4 to 6 feet. That's the other thing. So you'll get familiar with which beaches have generally the bigger surf or the smaller surf, and we like the smaller surf in general. But at the same time, Blacks, that's more so talking about the main break that surfers like to fish, or surfers like to surf. So if you go south, you're gonna hit the main break because there's an offshore underwater canyon there that basically produces big surf in a certain area at Blacks. Now La Jolla and Scripps over here, you can see actually the cove is over here. I'll click into it. I really don't need to click into it, but I might as well. And if we hop over here, you can see the geography here. This is complete protection here from anything out of the southwest, really. So if you get that southwest swell that we usually get, it's going to block the heck out of it and create really mellow, very terrific fishing and diving conditions, except you can't fish here because it's a marine life protected area for a good reason. Tons of fish over here, tons of sightings of really cool, really rare fish sometimes. So there's that. But yeah, you'll get a feel for which beaches have these certain tendencies to all the time have lower surf. So like, when is he there? Let me go back to the main screen for a second because this all here, like we can do a rundown here. Blacks is gonna have bigger surf than most places. La Jolla and Scripps, we talked about it. Sorry, ad loaded. Man, all these ads. That's one downside, but it is what it is. Del Mar's pretty average. Torrey Pine's pretty average. All this. Seaside, I think it tends to be a little bigger. I always see that cam and it just looks like it's ripping. I think the cam in general is a little biased angle, like it makes it look stronger than it actually is. But San Alejo tends to be a little lower, I think, because there's just the structure there. Ponto tends to be a little bigger. Carlsbad tends to be a little bigger at the break points. Corona Del Mar is a cool one because there's a big jetty on one side and then a lot of structure on the left or the south side, so it tends to be calmer than most other beaches. So you'll get a feel for which ones do which. But let me head back into Torrey Pines. And yeah, so I covered the cam stuff. That's really cool. Now, hopping into here, you get a breakdown of the current conditions. So current conditions right now are 2 to 3 feet in terms of the surf. The fair, I kind of talked about it a little bit, but I'm not going to go into that too much. This is your swell information. I don't know a ton about swell. I could give you some info there, but other people are much more well versed than I am in swell. My understanding is basically this is the height of the swell. This is the duration of this swell from peak to peak, and then this is the direction it is coming from. Now, I do, and I don't want to act like I know what I know here, but in my experience, sight casting for spot fin in the summertime from April to like August, spot fin croaker will come in a lot at sunset, and when you get a lower high tide, so the lower of the two high tides for that day, lining up at sunset with, generally speaking, longer period swell and lower surf, you get just at a flatter beach in terms of a slant, you get a really good mix of conditions that allows for the skinny water to stay full for longer periods of time, making it optimal for spot fin croaker to do their tailing and looking for all their crabs, not rushed. So it gives you time to spot them and sight cast for them easier. That's just my little experience with that little scenario there. So that's, you can look at that. It's valuable sometimes. I don't know a ton about it, so I'm just kind of speaking out of my butt on that one. But you got wind here. 3 miles an hour is great. Anything lower than 6 or 7 is awesome. Once you get to like 8's okay. 10 is kind of pushing it, and like 13 to 15, anything higher than that is pretty much a no-go. Lower the wind, the better. Bottom line, you can see here, this is where it's coming from. So it's not the end of the world, but the side-to-side action will cause a little bit of bow in your line, and it could reduce sensitivity, and it could reduce your control of putting texture and different twitches on your retrieve if you're fishing lures. Tidal information here, you've got a rising tide. It is 3.7 feet currently. Obviously the arrow indicates rising, it also says it here. It's going to a 3.9 foot high tide at 9:08 p.m. So that's your current information and what's to come in terms of what it's going to break at next in terms of high or low. This is your water temp, this is your air temp, and this is cloudy. It's also nighttime. You might see a moon often at nighttime, but water temp, it's not super important to us because it is totally seasonal. So this time of year, it will be 63 degrees often. Come February, it'll peak low at, I think, 57, maybe 56. Come September, it'll peak high around 74. There was one time it hit 80, which was pretty crazy. But that's it. The only time it's going to majorly fluctuate is if you get some massive heat wave that spikes the temp a little bit, maybe 4 or 5 degrees, maybe 6 sometimes. Very rarely, or you'll get upwelling, which could be any time of year, but mostly in the summertime because if it's in the wintertime, it's already low. But in the summertime, when you get massive wind, it can basically push out all the warm surface water on the shoreline and replace it with cold, deeper water, which could drop the temperature as much as 10 degrees. I've seen it happen in a matter of days, which can either stimulate feeding if it's been dead, or it can absolutely kill the bite. So there's that. This I don't really read too much, but it is a little bit. I mean, it's live intel from a dude who probably knows what he's doing, so you could give it a read. When we head down here, so this is where we have our 16-day forecast, which if we scroll this way, we see it all. Then we have our hourly, and I won't spend too much time on both, but once I spend time on 16-day, you'll realize I don't need to spend a ton of time on the hourly, but all it is long-term versus very short-term. So looking here, we have surf, swell, wind, tides, and then weather, first light, sunrise, sunset, last night. I'll break down each of them here, and then I won't have to break them down again. Surf, I already spoke about a little bit. You want lower surf, but let me show you here. All this is looking perfectly fine to me. Not a worry in the world about these conditions. This is your best time to fish in the near term in terms of just the variable of surf. So Thursday evening and Friday morning are your best time slots here. Now the tides could be totally off for what you want to do, but that's totally separate from this. So this is going to be your worst time to fish in the near term. So Saturday morning, Friday evening could get a little rough, but Saturday morning looks pretty rough. I would bet Saturday midday is going to be the worst just because of what I want to show you. I'm going to jump around. I'm really bad at this. here. So generally speaking, I know it's not going to show in the long term, but I would bet on an average day-to-day basis, especially if conditions are generally stagnant or similar, you're going to have lower surf in the morning. I know it says 3, but you can tell it peaks a little bit in this afternoon, and then it drops down low again in the evening. That's just how conditions go. Wind does it too for the most part. You'll have higher surf and higher wind in this afternoon slot, and then you'll have the mellow conditions. You'll see glossy mornings. You won't tend to see super glossy evenings, but you will see the surf dwindle in the evenings. It will also dwindle with a falling and peak low tide. Um, those are just some things to consider. So if you got really rough in general days coming up, you're like, shoot, when am I going to fish? Time it around the peak low. It'll be your best bet in terms of maneuverability and manageability with the conditions. So there's that. We can head out here and you can kind of get a feel for like, oh, I want to fish like a week from now. Am I going to be able to fish on Tuesday? Nope. Unless this moves from here to here or here to a day out or so. Sometimes it does it when it gets that far out. It'll mix around. It could not go all the way up to 8 feet. Maybe it only goes up to 6 feet. Maybe it hops over to Monday. Maybe it hops over to Wednesday. But in general, this is going to come at some point, and that's the prediction for now. So that's something to avoid. That's something to know about. If I had, say, a client wanted to fish Tuesday and they scheduled it right now, I'd say no. I'm not going to take them out then. And you can see wind. Oh no, that's the swell. Sorry. Yeah, it's bad. You don't want to fish that. Let's see what the wind is that day. Yeah, wind's up too. That's just not a good day. That's a really good just correlation set to look at. That is the worst possible day and time to fish in the somewhat relatively near term. So yeah, I mean that's essentially the bulk of it. You're looking at surf height. You want the lowest surf height. You're looking at swell really correlates with surf height a lot, but there are different factors that I just don't have a solid grasp on that I probably should. Wind, same thing. It's easier to manage. If you have wind, so look at these charts up here. You can see as I hover over it, the arrows kind of show you which way it's coming from. So this right here, you can see it's essentially a tailwind for you. If you're casting, if you have any wind at all, that's the wind you want because it's not going to interfere with how far you can cast. It might actually help you there. And it's not going to do this. So if we got this big one, okay, so that's not bad. That's a tailwind, but when you get something like basically something side to side, I want to show you what it would look like. So this one right here, say that we're 10 miles an hour or 15 miles an hour. When you cast out, if you are doing a Carolina rig, you're just dropping your bait down and feeling you want to keep your line tight and feel that bite, you're going to have a huge bow in your line right now because the wind is pulling to the left. It's pushing your line to the left. It's going to be tough to keep tension. Same goes for if you're retrieving a lure and trying to put a little twitch on it or even just feel where it is and even feel the bite sometimes or set it in time. The wind is going to affect that a lot. So wind is challenging, but 6 mile an hour is not something to be concerned about. It's when it gets to 15 and it's either facing against you or side to side. So out of the east is not a problem. For the beaches that are facing west, like most of ours do. Yeah, and then the tides, you can get super in depth with these. I will drop a couple articles I have on tides. I'll drop a few articles in this video because I think it's a pretty general conditions based video here. But let me give you a couple scenarios here. So in San Diego, if you're halibut fishing and you want to fish near hard structure that intermixes with sand, so like reef and sand, you're going to want to fish low tides at most beaches just because that's the way the hard structure is. It's further out there, so the low tides expose it a little bit, but keep most of it submerged, so there's still an opportunity for fish to hold in those spots, but you can still reach it with your lure in a cast. So in this scenario, if you've got a spot that does really well at the 0 tide or lower, you want to line it up with this sunset slot. So you want to fish from whenever you can start fishing. It'd be great if you would start at noon and fish until sunset, really. I mean, not all of us can do that. I certainly couldn't today. But that's your ideal situation. Now, if you've got a spot that, say, you like at the, I don't know, 2 to 4 foot interval, well, that's not going to line up very well for the near term predictions. You could catch the falling, but that's a quick falling. It's going to be a quick window. It'll be from, on any of these days, 12:16 to yeah, a 2 hour window. It's not going to be your ideal step, but there will be. If we go way out, let's see if we can catch one. Still a bit low here, but we're getting there. Or maybe we already passed it. Let's see. Yeah, yeah. So here we are. So 2 to 4. You got this whole window from Friday, December 2nd. Really, you could start at noon and you're almost there, 12:30, and you fish till sunset, and you're at that 4 foot. Really, I didn't even need to go that far. I think you can, blah, blah, right there. Here we are. Yeah, golden. So that's your time slot. So if you've got structure that's perfectly submerged between tidal head of 2 to 4 for good fishing, you want to fish from Thursday at 10 a.m., even earlier, to the end of the day. Wouldn't that be great? So that's what you want to do. And then obviously you can time it for however you like. So I mean, you could go into so many different things, but there are so many ways to play the tides because it's different for every fish. It's different for every beach. Corbina and croaker, for me, I show up to a sandy beach. I don't care what the tide is. I'm going to find the structure and I'm going to fish it. So I'm going to find the troughs. I'm going to find the holes. I'm going to find the rips that are formed in holes or troughs or cuts, etc. It's more show up and know what you're doing, find it, fish it as you go, as opposed to lure fishing for halibut or for sea bass or stuff like that, where it's the hard structure that you need to fish. That stuff stays there. It could be covered by sand one day and not another day. That's the only variable there. You just want to find good conditions that line up with the right tides for that stuff. So there's that. That's a breakdown on the tides. And the other cool thing, so you can, I mean, if you just look at a chart, you have to do the math. Like, okay, it's going down 3 feet in 4 hours. What's it going down in 2 hours? You got to do the math. It just shows you. So it's, say what it is, 11:38 here, or 11:50. What do we want to see? We just hop over to 11:50 and it's right there. So 1.3. So super helpful there. Same for wind, same for all this. So it just gives real time and exact time of what all this stuff is. And I like the wind breakdown on the desktop. It doesn't do this on the app, but if you've got the paid version, you've got the online access too. And then first light, sunrise, sunset, last light. That's super helpful too, because if you don't want to fish in the dark, you don't show up before first light, or at least before a couple minutes before first light. And then 5:10 is as late as you want to go. So especially this time of year. Summertime, you can stick around and fish for sharks and be warm still. You can still do it in wintertime, but you're just going to be cold unless you're prepared. But I think that's it. Oh, and obviously I said I wouldn't spend too much time on the hourly because I just covered everything. It's just the same, but hourly. So all the same stuff, same exact graphics, same exact stuff. So I think that's it. Just really cool stuff. You've got all the access to all this stuff, and I hope this helps you in planning for your next surf fishing session and all your future surf fishing sessions, because we've got a lot to work with. And if you have any questions, let me know.